Hey, 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 welcome everybody to Fentanyl Facts and Stories. My name is Charlie Perry, along with my co host, Paula Young, the one of the founders, CEO of Achieve Greatness. And it's Achieve Greatness 88.org. And down below is Ed Bish. This is the founder of RAP, which is,
Rel-
it's, go
Rel-
ahead.
Purdue Pharma.
Yes, and we just we've known Ed for a while now, and he always is shooting out so much facts and information for us when it comes to big pharma, and I am so glad to have him here on board. Thanks to Paula getting in contact with Ed, and we just want to make this happen. You know, we have some information for you, and uh, and we're gonna go from there. But Paula, you have anything to say to start this podcast off?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody again for being on. We have such loyal followers, so thank you, everyone. I had reached out to Ed because, as many of you know from Ed being on last time, he has been truly a champion and a warrior with
Okay.
everything for 20 years now, since he unfortunately lost his son to OxyContin. Was it Oxy? I'm sorry, was it OxyContin, Ed? Yes. So he has been I mean, I look up to Ed. Ed is my mentor. I want to be him one day because he is a true warrior and a champion. And, the battle and the boots on the ground, grassroots movement. And I asked him to come on because, as we all know, the Supreme Court just had a ruling against the Sackler family. And there's been a lot of talk about it. But I wanted Ed to come on to tell all of you exactly what that means for everyone, what that means to him. Is because he's been fighting this battle again for almost 20 years since losing his wonderful, wonderful son. And, we want to hear what you have to say, Ed, and we want to really get educated because I think there's so much misinformation out there. I know that with myself, when I heard the ruling, I actually was contacted by a reporter here in Massachusetts. And my comment to them was, although the Supreme Court said, hey, parents, you can go after them, that's not enough. To
Mm,
me, we were let down once again by the justice system, and they continue to show us that they don't care. But Ed, I will let you take the floor. Thank you, my friend, for being on. And by the way, everyone, I was telling Ed how fabulous he looks. I mean, look at him. He looks like a freaking rock star. I can't compete.
so true.
Thank
Looks great.
you, Paula. I can't compete with you guys. But okay, story short, anybody that doesn't know my story, and this is the condensed version, but anybody can see my Facebook, Ed Bish, Bisch, and my page is RAP, Relatives Against Purdue Pharma. I'm also on Twitter at EJB 1893. EJB 1893. So I lost my son Eddie back in 2001. The very first time I heard the word Oxycontin, my son was laying dead in his bed from it. In August of 2001, the very first congressional hearing was held on Oxycontin deaths. 2001.
Wow.
So I got active right away. The night my son died, Oxy was a new drug. And that night, me and my family, we started faxing the high schools in Philadelphia, PA, to warn kids about this new drug. Like I said, I went to the first congressional hearing, 2003. Me and other parents, my friend Lee Nuss, we founded RAP, Relatives Against Purdue Pharma. We held the second protest against Purdue Pharma. 2007, Purdue pleads guilty to 2 felony charges. RAP members were able to give a short statement. I think there was 19 people who gave statements. Most of them were members of RAP. That was
Mm,
2007. But what happened in 2007? Rick Montcastle, the lead investigator, portrayed in Dope Sick. He spent 5 years of his life getting evidence, writing a 120-page conviction felony memo. This memo was sent to the top of the DOJ. They never showed the judge this memo.
Wow.
We judged that day to give them jail time. The executives who pled guilty, the judge was apologetic. He said, I wish I could give them jail time. I'm paraphrasing. I would give them jail time, but I have to go by the sentencing guidelines. Well, we find out years later, he never saw this 120-page memo. So the DOJ, they could have stopped the opioid epidemic in its tracks. So instead of people going to jail, which would have stopped the opioid epidemic, Purdue paid, at the time, a record fine. But what did they do? Did they slow down? No. They hired more sales reps. Sales of OxyContin went from $2 billion a year to $3 billion a year. And as the sales went up, the went up. Other drug companies all this. They saw all they had to do give back, a small portion of their blood profits. And other companies like Mallinckrodt and Endo, they went full ahead, pedal to the metal. So that seeded the opioid epidemic. So around 2012, I got so burnt out from, trying to get stuff done. I just walked away from everything. I stopped watching the news, stopped reading the newspaper. And, it was that way for like 6 years. And then in 2018, I saw Maura Healey, the Massachusetts Attorney General at the time, was suing the Sacklers, who I call the Sackler cartel. The Sacklers who were actually on the board pulling the strings, led by Richard Sackler. I call them the Sackler cartel. I read that lawsuit, and that's still online. And the evidence is in the lawsuit. I read that. I said, oh, my God. So I called up a bunch of original rap members. And I said, we got to get back involved. 2019, headline in the paper, Purdue Pharma files bankruptcy. Finally, this dirty company's going out of business. I started reading the article, and the third paragraph in, it says the Sacklers are demanding civil immunity in order to do this deal.
Wow.
Said out loud, this is a scam. This is a bankruptcy scam. This is what it's all about. Them buying civil immunity. So I got involved in the bankruptcy. I joined the ad hoc committee for accountability with Nan Golden and 3 other parents. And for 4 years, we listened to every hearing. And people who don't know, Purdue Pharma was able to handpick their judge, Judge Robert Drain in White Plains, New York. They were able to handpick them. So we battled for 4 years trying to get some accountability. And on the day that they signed what I call the bankruptcy scam, Nan Golden, Alexis Plus, myself, and many other activists were outside the White Plains courthouse calling out this judge, calling out the judge shopping. And, it's a long, frustrating battle. But New York State has changed the law. Companies can no longer judge shop in bankruptcy in New York State. We tried to get the Sackler Act passed in Congress, which would stop judge shopping in bankruptcy throughout the nation. That did not pass, but there's other bills that they're trying to get through now to stop the judge shopping. So on the day that they signed that deal, I said, this is going to wind up at the Supreme Court. This was 2021. Some people thought I was crazy. I just had a feeling. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. Probably if I was a lawyer, I would never make that statement. But I said, we're going to wind up to the Supreme Court. And if anybody's been watching the headlines, yes, we wound up the Supreme Court. In December of 23, the Supreme Court held the hearing. December 4th, I think it was. Again, myself, Nan Golden, Alexis, Randy Anderson, we were outside the Supreme Court. We were making noise. We were calling it a bankruptcy scam. And so the main issue there was these third-party releases. So what happened was Purdue Pharma was declaring bankruptcy. The Sacklers, who offshored over $10 billion to offshore accounts, were demanding civil third-party releases in order for the deal to go through. And, you know, it was a scam. It was a scam from the beginning. And the Supreme Court came 5-4, correct decision. Okay? So then there was a lot of press. So this is what I want to address. Myself, Nan Golden, Alexis Plus, if we thought what the Sacklers were offering in the bankruptcy scam would turn around the opioid epidemic, we would have made the deal with the devil. Yeah. We would have said, okay, some parents think that this would make a big difference. But I'm pointing out the facts. The facts are there's already been $55 billion in blood settlements signed. Every single state is sitting on top of hundreds of millions of dollars. Purdue Pharma, what Sacklers were offering, they were offering $6 billion. Sounds like a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Over 18 years, backloaded. So my point is, if this opioid abatement money is going to make a difference, I pray that it does. If it's going to make a difference, the Sacklers have no effect on it. The money's there. States are trying to use it. There's a lot of controversy, which Paula will probably talk about in a little while. There's a lot of controversy. You know, is it being used right? And each state gets to use it. But the point is, there's $55 billion available. Okay. So the Supreme Court did the right thing. So then the question is, okay, well, what does that mean? So right now, they are in 60-day mediation. So what happened when Judge Drain, the first thing he did, there was 2,600 lawsuits against Purdue Pharma and the Sacklers. 900 of them involved the Sacklers. Two of the Sacklers were supposed to give depositions the week Judge Drain temporarily halted all the lawsuits. I forget the exact time. He halted the lawsuits for several weeks. And then several weeks went by, he re-upped it. And a month went by, he re-upped it. So for 5 years now, all lawsuits against the Sacklers have been on hold. So now after Supreme Court, the attorney generals are in mediation with Purdue. They have 60 days to come up with a new deal, or the judge can let the lawsuits loose, which I want. I want them to be deposed, because what comes out when someone gives a deposition? The truth and evidence.
Yeah.
Mara Healy, the day that they signed this deal when she was still attorney general, she said, PR, I have seen all the evidence the DOJ has, and they should prosecute the Sacklers. And the guy said, Mar, why don't you in Massachusetts prosecute the Sacklers? Mm-hmm. Mara said the states are not equipped. it has to be the DOJ. So, you know, in the meantime, RAP held 2 rallies outside the DOJ in Washington, D.C., calling on the DOJ criminal division to just follow the evidence that Mara has seen with her own eyes.
Yep.
With her own eyes, you have a lawyer, an attorney general, who has seen the evidence. So that's really what we want. And we opposed this deal because this is where the fight was. We were told that if this deal went through, the odds of DOJ criminal division doing something were a lot less. Well, the deal didn't go through. So we're still hoping, we're still calling on the DOJ, do your job, follow the evidence, criminally prosecute, and that's where we're at. What happens after these 60 days, I don't know, but I pray that this new judge, this is not so the drain. He retired 7 years early from federal judge. I does that.
Yeah.
Judge Drain worked to farm a law. Does that smell to you, Charlie?
Yeah, it does, because nobody does leave that job early, you know.
Well,
Just
Judge
don't.
did, and then he went to work for a law firm that he decided over a multi-billion-dollar case. And
Yeah.
every hearing, and I will tell you, every major decision went the Sacklers and Purdue Pharma's way. That's another thing. So now Purdue Pharma is acting like they're totally disconnected from the Sacklers. Well, everybody on the Purdue Pharma board was handpicked by the Sacklers. So to act like, you know, we have no affiliation, that's their official line. Another reason why I want to come on here. So when the Supreme Court was announced, it went with the Sackler family's PR thing. Oh, that's horrible for the victim. The victims, we were only going to get 7.5% of this settlement. It is true that, yes, abatement money, 18 years down the line, most of it. One thing, we need to get done as soon as possible because people need it so bad. They say that, and then they actually wrote in and agreed to an 18-year payment plan, backloaded. Most of the money is paid in the later years. And like I said, there's $55 billion available right now. States are sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars. So I'm not buying it. You do not give the architects of the opioid epidemic a sweetheart deal. I wrote an op-ed in Stat magazine. So basically, white-collar criminals in this country, billionaires, they don't go to jail. They just pay fines. Well, if companies say, well, I can do this, this, and this, and the worst that's going to happen to me, I just got to pay back some of the blood money. They're going to keep on doing it. This is why the DOJ criminal division needs to step up and do their job. And until they tell me we're not going to do it, I'll keep on yelling about it and keep on advocating. You see my sign, my day to release tacklers. That sign, my current wife's picture, we were all Washington Post, Associated Press. That said a lot. And so it's a long battle. I just want to tell you some of our victories. So there's minor victories. I mean, get in judge shop, not allow the New York State's a victory. Potentially, it's going to stop nationwide. Years ago, Purdue Pharma, being the greedy pigs that they are, was not happy with the hundreds of millions, billions of dollars they were making off Oxy. They tried to get to market a time-released hydromorphone called Paladone.
Mm-hmm.
This drug was more powerful than OxyContin. We went to FDA hearings, we had protests, we wrote letters, and in the end, the FDA couldn't even pass Paladone. So that was a major victory. I never really, another podcast host said, you saved millions of people by helping stop that.
Yeah, you sure did.
Back and think. And, so that's an unsung song. This judge shopping issue, calling out this judge, works for a Purdue Pharma law firm now. That should be major headlines, but it's not. So, ask me any questions. I know it's complicated. People still don't understand. The victims, I will just say, so people say, oh, well, the victims ain't getting no money now from Purdue. Well, like I said, 7.5% of the blood money, the top payout would have been $48,000 minus your lawyer fees and expenses. And very few people are going to get that. Most people were going to get $3,500.
Wow.
Your lawyer $2,000, that's you $1,500. Okay, so they keep on acting like this is so horrible. And granted, some people, people who've put their kids through rehabs and all, some of them are really, really in bad financial situation. I feel bad for them individuals. Another thing, so some of the allegations, and I know Purdue Pharma knew who the pill mills were, and they never turned them in.
Wow.
Who got Oxy on the street because a pill mill doctor was flooding Philadelphia with pills. He got one of them pills, and there was other circumstances, but Oxy was the straw that came back. Pills weren't all over the street. Eddie would still be here. Prescription for OxyContin, you're not eligible for nothing. And personally, that didn't bother me because it was never about the money for me. It was all about accountability and justice, and we're making noise.
Wow. It's amazing how they get off. They make billions, give out thousands to victims, and it's just a sad case. I actually I've been watching this sitcom called The Suits, and it's amazing what all the wheeling and dealing that it goes on within the system. And if 2 lawyers or 3 lawyers, whatever, they get together and they want to make something go away, they can make it go away. It's sad.
Well, it's well documented. So let me give everybody a thing. If you have not seen Dope Sick on Hulu, it's worth the $6. Sign up for a month. Watch Dope Sick. That is the most Netflix.
It's on Netflix.
Painkillers on Netflix. Dope Sick's on Hulu. HBO has a straight documentary called Crime of the Century. I got out to on Netflix. My buddy Dan Schneider. Episode 3 really gets into Purdue Pharma when they interview a sales rep. Great series. I mean, there's been over 10 books documenting their crimes. The very first book came out in 2003, Painkiller by Barry Meyer. the 2007 prosecution team led by Rick Moncastle, they read Barry's book and used that as a roadmap how to prosecute. They had them dead to right. You know, it's all in dope sick how they got out of it in 2000. And the people who sent that memo, they're going to have to answer to their maker one day, because it literally has cost hundreds of thousands of lives. So as you know today, and even the title of your show, fentanyl's the big thing. But without Purdue Pharma influencing doctors, one of their biggest lies was less than 1% of patients get addicted. Also, they spouted pseudo addiction. So if you were a patient and you look like you were addicted, you weren't addicted. You just need a stronger dose. That's what they preach. The opioid epidemic. 14,000 people died of an overdose that year. Now, wow. 100,000 a year, and it's horrible. This Saturday, 9:40 a.m., Washington Monument, Lost Voices of Fentanyl, LVOF.org, LVOF.org. There will literally be thousands of parents calling on our government to do something about the fentanyl crisis. And I'll be there. They have a lot of top-notch, great speakers. They let me speak for 2 minutes, and my message is simple: to remind everybody how this crisis started, and not for what others did, and for the DOJ criminal division sitting on a 120-page damning prosecution memo listing felony crime. This fentanyl would nearly as it is.
Yeah.
Well, I think the other thing too is let's also remember, Ed, that there's so many other organizations out there like yourself who are also boots on the ground fighting this battle. And they're doing it every day like you are. And unfortunately, you know, we all have an army now. We're all in this army of grieving parents. And one of the things that I constantly say to people when I speak is, you know, when they sit there and they say, oh, well, why are you doing this? Well, we're doing this because this is the only thing we know. We're doing this because we don't want you to be us. We're doing this because we are living the nightmare every day when we wake up. And you cannot understand us at all, no matter how much we try to explain to you, unless you become us. And we don't want that. So that's why there is the folks like the Ed Bishes of the world and so many others, you know, from Facing Fentanyl to Families Against Fentanyl with Jim Rawl, you know, to Andrea Thomas with Facing Fentanyl, to myself, to Jaime with Void, you know, the rally you mentioned. There's Marla, who's in Ohio. She has her nonprofit also. There's just so many that are now part of this group that you really started, Ed, 20 years ago when you lost your precious son. And if I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'm speaking for me, you know, and the parents that I've come across, including, you know, I can just name so many off of the top of my head as I did. And then Diane Urban from Appalled. And then you've got Amanda Faith in California. You've got so many people who came after you.
Let me say this. So a lot of our groups, we have our own little niche or specialties, but we all want to save lives. That's why we eventually all need to come together. Okay. I always say the 3 R's. Okay. We need supply reduction. We need demand reduction. We need harm reduction. And someone reminded me, and we need accountability. So we need the 3 R's plus accountability, and that covers everything. And you know, unfortunately, the government, if they would do a COVID-like response to this, would knock it out.
Yeah.
But the annual cost of the opioid epidemic in the country is $2 trillion a year. Okay. So even the 55 billion, this 55 billion is over 15, 18 years. Yep. It's putting a dent into it. We need the proper resources. You know, like I said, certain groups, some of them are in the harm reduction. I consider rap part of the supply reduction problem or answer. And, you know, I'd like to see us come together more. And you do see some of it, like lvof.org. I guarantee you there will probably be 25 different fentanyl organizations there. But we're coming together in DC to make noise. And, you know, bad as it is, Paula, if it wasn't for people like you and Charlie and all the groups you named, it would even be worse.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. But you know what? But you know what, Ed? It's like I've said multiple times. When I speak, I'm always talking about you and people before you. You know, from Light into the Darkness, which is Ohio, with Marla, who lost her daughter, Angie. You know, Jim Rawl, Families Against Fentanyl, who lost his son, Tommy. You know, you lost your son, Eddie. Andrea Thomas lost her daughter, Ashley. I mean, I could go on. And then you have Amanda Faith, who lost her son, Luca. You have so many parents that you know now just by mentioning the name of their children. You know, you have Diane Urban, who lost her son, who's part of Appalled, and the Jordan. And this is how you get to know the families and you get to hear what we are doing. And again, I constantly commend you, Ed, because unfortunately, you suffered the ultimate loss way before I did. And now, because of our losses, we are here doing what you have been doing for so long. And this is why I always tell you, and I know you laugh, but when I grow up, I want to be you.
Well, thank you for the compliment. And that's all we can do is try our best. And in the meantime, life goes on. Try not to burn out. We're seeing results. Pulling teeth from a chicken, but we got to keep on battling.
So true.
So if I can ask you, Ed, because I'm sure a lot of people have the same question, and I'm going to ask you this. Why don't you tell me or tell our audience, because I know Charlie tells me all the time we hit like 300-400 people. What is Ed Bish's take on what the ruling was with the Supreme Court?
Oh, I like I said, I predicted 5-4 cross, and believe it or not, this rule is so much bigger than the tacklers. So I'm all about producing tacklers. But if the Supreme Court would have went 5-4 the other way, that means any criminal company could do this and that, because the DOJ don't put white collar criminals in jail. They just find them. Have company act that anything, and then lawsuits catch up to them. They put the company in bankruptcy, and the people who the masterminds, just like Richard Sackler, they could demand and get civil immunity. And like I said, they can still go to jail. Well, that'd be great if the DOJ put white collar criminals in jail, but they just don't, and they need to. And this is going on and on until they do.
So do you think that they're not, Ed, and I'm going to put this out there because I've talked about this before, and I know some people are probably going to be angry with what I'm about to say, but I'm going to speak the truth. Do you think that the crisis that continues to happen, because let's face it, the drug crisis has been around for 50, 60, 70 years. It's not new. It's just every generation, it seems to have a different face to it. Do you think that maybe this is continuing because of money? Because I can tell you right now, that's why I think it is continuing, and because of all the pockets that are being lined.
Definitely. So, the opioid crisis. So, Purdue made billions. They're offering to give back a portion. Who are they giving it back to? The states. The states are collecting the blood money, not the parents who lost kids, not the parents who put their kids in rehabs, not the parents who lost their home, taking second and third mortgages. The states are collecting money from the companies who they let poison the country. So yes, it's a systemic problem. If I was king of the world, I would fix it, but I'm not king of the world. So we got to keep on yelling, making noise. And unfortunately, until enough people are affected, I said this years ago with OxyContin and Purdue Pharma, said until enough people are affected, nothing's going to change. And it took the government 15 years to crack down on Purdue, but finally they did. And God forbid it takes the government 15 years to crack down on fentanyl and the drug cartels, because literally millions. But it's going to come to a point, and it starts with us and stuff like what's going in D.C. and August 31st. Other fentanyl groups are going to be in Times Square, New York City.
No, it's actually August 21st.
Okay, August 20th.
August 21st is when Facing Fentanyl will be in New York and Times Square. Yes.
But events like that raise awareness, get the warning out. 4 years ago, when the first Lost Voices of Fentanyl did their rally, a lot of people didn't know about fentanyl, but through their group and your group and Charlie's side, people are at least having a warning now.
Yeah.
Do you think that the warning is enough, though, Ed? Because I'm going to tell you something. I had a parent. I'm not going to say who, because there's we reach like 500 people. But I have a parent who said to me about a month ago, and she is a parent like us. She has lost her son, and she said, Paula, the feedback that I'm getting is that people are getting saturated, and they don't want to hear it anymore. They're like, okay, yeah, we heard about fentanyl. We get it. Let's move on. What would you say to that?
Die. Listen, when one of their relatives die, they'll want to hear it. And unfortunately, that's where this is going. That's why I say when enough people are affected, what that number is, I don't know. But that's when things will really start happening. But in the meantime, we can help speed up this process by doing what we're doing.
Do you think that there's a pivot that maybe organizations need to do, or we need to come together in a different way for the legislators to listen? Because I can tell you right now that here in Massachusetts, and Charlie will tell you, because Charlie's here in Massachusetts, they're not doing anything. They don't even talk about it. I'm doing an event. Achieve Greatness is doing an event for Fentanyl Awareness and Prevention Day here in New Bedford, and then I'm also having one in Boston. But they're not doing it. And then you want to talk about Boston? Boston, Charlie knows it's mass and cass. We are losing hundreds and thousands of people, or I would say thousands of people. I apologize, because mass and cass is the same version of Philadelphia. That I can't remember the name. I apologize.
Kensington.
Yes. Well, we have that. We have Kensington here in Massachusetts. And Ed, I can tell you, you hear nothing. I mean, you can ask Charlie. You hear nothing. The only reason I know is because I have become affiliated with an advocate from Boston who has been doing this for 5 years, and he's calling out legislators, the mayor, the governor, everybody on Twitter, and like, okay, how are you guys saying that you're helping? Because here's the photos.
Good. And that's what we need to do. That's, we're battling. And like I said, my specialty is accountability and supply reduction. Other people, I mean, unfortunately, no one could say, okay, well, if we had $100 billion, could make this stop. Unfortunately, it's so much more complicated than that. I don't have all the answers. I do know, like I said, the 3 R's. Supply reduction. When fentanyl pills are $1 a pill, yes, there's going to be problems.
Yeah.
Supply reduction, demand reduction. Kids in grade school need to be getting taught. They need lessons, okay? Health lessons, okay? So, and then harm reduction, keep people alive. No one can recover if they're dead, right? So
Right.
it's not easy. There's no easy answers. There ain't no magic number. Like if the Sacklers gave their $6 billion in 1 year instead of 18 years, this would solve the problem. No, it wouldn't.
Right. No, it wouldn't. And I can tell you that a couple weeks ago, Charlie and I had someone on our podcast who was a former dealer here in Boston, and he started selling at the age of 12. Correct, Charlie? 12, he said.
Yeah.
And I asked him a specific question on our podcast, and I said, he did 20 years in prison, and when he was in prison, he unfortunately lost his mom and his younger brother to fentanyl poisoning. So when he came out, he is now helping the youth here in Boston to never go down the path he went on. And I asked him right on the podcast, and I said, if you were to go back to your life right now, how quickly could you get the product? And Ed, this is what he said to Charlie and I, and you can go back and listen to it. And he said, Paula, it's 7:55. I can make 2 phone calls, and by 8 o'clock, I'll have $10,000 worth of fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about supply, that's exactly what it is. And that's not being targeted enough.
Yep. And so there's been a lot of talk. I mean, if you cut to the chase, as far as the fentanyl goes, it starts in China. That's where it starts. Goes to Mexico, the precursors, gets into the U.S., the schools, everything. So, you mentioned Jim Rao. He wants to declare fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. I'm all for that. And like I said, so that part, that's the supply reduction. Demand reduction might be the most important, because if there was no demand, but I did Sam Quinones, who wrote a great book, Dreamland. He said the supply is driving the demand now. Like I said, when the pills cost a buck a piece, the supply is driving the demand. It's a vicious cycle, and things have to change.
Yeah.
And we've already lost between 2021 or 2020, we have lost more folks to fentanyl poisoning than World War I, II, and the Vietnam War. So just hearing those numbers, it should make something, or it should trigger someone. And it doesn't seem like it is. We have individuals and people who are more concerned about their reelection than they are to really make a difference in the position that they hold. And I think it's what you said, Ed, and one of your last statements is accountability, is that needs to start happening. I'm not saying, because I will never do this, I am not saying go yelling and screaming, because that gets nowhere. You're going to get nowhere with yelling and screaming. There's a way to talk to people. There's a way to get what you want and how you want, and get people to listen. But I also think that, as you mentioned, there's so many different groups doing so many things. Everyone's in a silo that they're not coming together. They're just not. And you see this, Ed, more so than I do. I don't see much of it here in Massachusetts, because here in Massachusetts, it's really me doing this and another mom, but she's on the Snapchat side of this, where I'm doing more the advocacy for the street drugs and the marijuana, but no one else. And then, Ed, you have and I don't know if there's others folks in Philadelphia, but this is what I'm saying is that at some point, even politicians are losing their children, because there was a senator here in Maine who lost his daughter to fentanyl poisoning. He's not doing much. We have two congresswomen here in Massachusetts who lost their children. Yes, they've done something, but that's it. So I don't know what it's going to take, Ed, really, because we have people who are losing their children. Someone said to me one day, and again, I won't say who, but someone said to me one day, Paula, you need to understand that not everybody wants to talk about this all the time. And that was the comment that was made to me.
Mm. And I can see that with getting the word out. And, hey, if they don't want to listen, you can't make them listen. But they already know. So the people who said we're tired of hearing it, well, guess what? They already heard it, Paula. Thanks to you. Just everybody deals with it a different way. And like I said, eventually when enough people, when enough politicians, when enough rich people lose their relatives, things will start turning. And in the meantime, you don't know how many lives you saved, Paula, Charlie, myself, but we're doing all we can, and that's all we can.
Absolutely. Now, how is it there in your state, Ed, right now? Because I can tell you in my state, we had 2,200 for 2023.
Well, my state, I currently live in South Jersey, and we have our specialties. And like I said, I've been all about Purdue Pharma and OxyContin and that. So I'm really not on the street level. I commend the people doing that work. I actually grew up in Kensington.
Wow.
I moved out 30 years ago. 1999, I moved out. One of the best things I ever did, but, my heart bleeds. I took a documentary Irish filmmaker over there, and I showed him Kensington. And I said, yep, I used to buy my Chuck Taylors right here. And now it's unbelievable. But we keep on keeping on, and things slowly turn around. Too slow, but remember the victories.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of victories. There's victories, and there's some victories in you guys. Well, all of us, excuse me, kind of fighting the battle or trying to fight the battle as much as we can. Excuse me.
Yeah, so like I said, I just want to remind everybody one more time, please, Dope on Hulu, watch Painkiller on Netflix, watch Crime of the Century on HBO.
And then isn't there another one? What was it The Pharmacist on Netflix also?
Netflix. Dan Schneider, he has his own group, Friends of the Pharmacist, I think it's called. On Facebook, just look up Dan Schneider. That's a good group, and there's a lot of groups. And I wish in 2001, 2003, when rap first started, there was social media.
Oh yeah.
I had email. I had a website, and we had email. And if we got 10 people on a conference phone call, it was bedlam. So, but.
Yeah, it's
and this Saturday, anybody, if you know people in DC, please, any of your media contacts, Charlie, Lost Voices of Fentanyl, 9:40 a.m. will be at Washington Monument. Then they're going later in the day, they're going to march to the White House and be heard.
Well, and there's a lot of other things going on, as you know, Ed. Also August 21st for everyone. I'm sure a lot of organizations, a lot of nonprofits are going to be not celebrating, but remembering August 21st because it is Fentanyl Awareness and Prevention Day. Many groups are doing a lot of amazing things, including, at Times Square, as we talked about. So that's something that is also very much out there. And then you have Overdose Awareness Day, which is August 31st. I will ask you though, Ed, one of the things, and I quickly, because I know we have 10 minutes left, one of the things that I'm seeing a lot is a lot of the organizations, and I'm now speaking in reference to the recovery community, substance abuse community, they continue to use the term overdose instead of fentanyl poisoning. And there seems to be this chasm, if I'll say, where when people are trying to get involved with the substance abuse community and the recovery community, they are not letting folks in because in their mind, well, that's not how your child passed away. And I had someone say to me not too long ago from an organization that I will not mention on here, when they know about my son, and they said, well, I still think that that's an addiction. So, and I'm like, I'm done, because and I'm seeing so much of this, Ed, and I don't know if you can help us out or even help me or all of us to understand that, there is a huge difference with overdose and fentanyl poisoning. We are not saying that both of them don't matter, because they do. But what we are saying is come together.
Definitely do, and I think it is getting better. I try to go out my way saying fentanyl overdose and poisonings, and let's face it, someone on the street who smokes fentanyl daily and they wind up dying. This is just my opinion. I would say they overdose. They knew they were smoking fentanyl. Okay, a kid who buys an Adderall to study for an exam, a kid who buys a Percocet to relax, or a kid who buys a Xanax because they have anxiety disorder, and it's a fentanyl pill, and they take it and they die. That is an out poisoning. Now, some people might not agree, but let's just stop fighting about the term. Dead is dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to call it poisoning or you want to call it an overdose? They wound up dead. So,
so true.
It's getting better. More people are coming together, and that's what we need.
Yeah, absolutely. Ed, we want to thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you.
Especially at such a short notice. You're amazing. You're a rock star, as I said. And I thank you for what you're doing and continuing the fight, because this isn't easy, as you know, especially for us parents, and there's parents who are listening, because we're dealing with our grief, and now we're also doing advocacy for others. So sometimes we do get burnt out. We do. But we continue to do what we do because we don't want a parent to face our nightmare that we wake up to every day.
That's it, right, Paula. So someone said to me, Ed, why don't you just let it go? Well, bring back my son, I'll let it go.
Yeah.
I don't understand why people say, honest to God, some of the comments. Wow. Everyone here in my community, Ed, including Charlie, and he's about to laugh. Everyone here in my community knows that when I get pissed off, I'm going to throat punch you. So that's what people. So people will say, they'll call me and they're like, "Okay, I was on a Zoom call, Paula, and I thought of you because I'm like, oh, I'm going to throat punch someone today. That's it."
Yeah.
Because it's like, why would you make that kind of comment? Like, how about you don't say anything? How about that?
Yeah. So true.
And early on when I started talking against OxyContin abuse, I was attacked by chronic pain patients, and I used to try to reason with them, and then now I don't. Well, what I say to them is, you need to realize it's Purdue Pharma, by pushing a heroin and a pill for moderate pain. You know, all these people who contact me, they've had 10 back operations. They might need strong narcotics, but what caused the problem was greed and push for moderate pain.
Right.
They're you should be mad at, not Ed Bish. But you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't.
Ed, just tell them you're going to do a Paula Young. You're going to throat punch them. That's all.
All we can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Ed, thank you so much. We so appreciate you being on. We appreciate all the information you gave everyone, really breaking down the Supreme Court ruling, and everyone heard it. Charlie put a link on here in reference to Massachusetts and how much we are looking at receiving and getting. So everyone can click on the link for that information. But again, Ed, as always, we want to thank you so much for being on and coming to educate all of us, because it truly is, you know, we do this because we have a passion, but we do it because we have that fire in us. And we want to make sure that when we disseminate information, it's always correct and factual. Charlie knows this, and we're always very cautious. So I thank you again for coming on and really breaking it down, because even I didn't know some of the things you said tonight. So I thank you for that.
Hey, thanks a lot, Paula. Thanks a lot, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. It was so good seeing you.
Yes, it is. Always. Keep up the good work.
Absolutely. So everyone, thank you everyone for being on today. Sorry that we had it a little bit late. Charlie had a meeting. He's an important person in the community, because Charlie don't throat punch people like Paula does. So so he's invited to meetings. We will be on again next week with another great guest. I won't say who. Charlie will be putting it up on Tuesday. Again, thank you everyone for listening and for being part of this. And if anyone learned anything tonight from Ed, please just talk to people and let them know that fentanyl is real, that this is not unfortunately going away. It is a crisis. And talk to your children, talk to your family not to go to the street. And mental health is also important. And just talk to them and hear them.
So true. All right.
Hey, guys.
All right. Good night, y'all. And Paul, I'm going to close with my little ending stuff, and but I'll talk to you this week. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, Ed. Take care. I'll see you. All right. God bless you all. All right, everyone. What a great podcast. Ed Bish is just definitely he's a pioneer. The guy is doing amazing things. Paula doing amazing things in our community. I look forward to all of you coming on and joining us. It's real important that we get these facts and stories. So if you have a story, you know, come on in. You know, come on to the podcast. You're invited. You know, in the comment section, just put invite me, and just tell your story. You know, if you had a bad hair day, all right, just, you know, we can just do it through the audio. You know, you don't have to allow your camera to be, you know, to view you. But yeah, it's one thing that we didn't mention. Paul and I, we were Andrew, her son. We have a basketball tournament. It's called Force Out Fentanyl. It's the first annual Andrew's Memorial Tournament to educate and act and prevent. Saturday, August 17th, 2024. Tournament at 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. 101 Slocum Road in Dartmouth, Massachusetts. The girls and boys from the ages of 10 to 17. 10 players max per team. 2 games guaranteed. The championship games will be per age group, and it's $150 per team. For more information or to sign up, contact Coach Steve Burgo. His number is 508-951-3796. That's Coach Steve Burgo, 508-951-3796. Also, you can get in contact with Coach Phil Young, which is Paula's husband. His number is 774-503-0644. That again is Coach Phil Young, 774-503-0644. Don't forget, Achieve Greatness, 88.org. All right, everyone. And you know I'm affiliated with WNB1 Radio, located at 262 Union Street, New Bedford, Massachusetts. And feel free to go to the website, WNB1.com. That's WNB1.com. And check us out. We have Mags in the morning. That's with Mags and J9. They do their morning show from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Also, they have a replay, and they do a replay later on in the afternoon. We have the Really Charlie podcast with yours truly, straight to the point sports talk on Thursdays. That's every other week during the summer. Starts at 6 p.m. on Thursday. And that would be Brian Magnet, Derek Consaccio, and Steve Lopes, and they talk shop, talk about local sports, professional sports, and they have their little go back and forth, their little banter, and it's real nice. One of my favorite shows. Don't forget about Frequency Live. It's on Sundays with Berto Carter, Derek Demers, Jasmine Vasconcelos. We also have Edmund Ray, who's behind the scenes. Occasionally, I like going on there. So I like going on that show. It's real nice, especially when they have a panel. We do our thing, talk about a few things. Real good. And last but not least is Luxury Tax. They are doing their thing. They're traveling all over the place. They went down to South Beach, Miami, doing their thing. And they got some things coming up, but they're doing it kind of like, you're going to have to kind of binge watch it. There'll be one episode after another, but I can't wait. Can't wait to see what they got going on. And that's with Marguerite Graham, Ziamara, Janine, and Diane. They're doing their thing. So, all right, everyone. Every Wednesday, Fentanyl Facts and Stories with myself and Paula Young, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Come and join us. And this is crazy. You've got to have some empathy about people that are going through this crisis and trauma of fentanyl. It's crazy. It's affecting everybody. All right. You need me? You know how to get a hold of me here on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Send me a message if you would like to be a guest on the podcast. All right. Take care, y'all. Love you. God bless.